The Galactic Council chamber floated in the darkness of space, a massive crystal sphere orbiting a dying red star. Inside, representatives from 100 different species gathered around the circular meeting platform. The air hummed with the sound of universal translators working overtime to convert clicks, whistles, and growls into understandable speech. Ambassador Zorax stood at the center, his 4 arms spread wide. The Threxian's blue scales gleamed under the chamber's soft lighting. His species had conquered a third of the known galaxy, and everyone knew it. Today he planned to add another prize to their collection. Distinguished members of the council, Zorax began, his deep voice carrying across the chamber. The Threxian Empire has discovered a new system rich in rare minerals. Sector 7G contains enough resources to fuel our collective economies for the next millennium. A holographic star map appeared above the platform. A small yellow star blinked in an unremarkable corner of the galaxy. 9 planets circled it, with an asteroid belt between the 4th and 5th worlds. Our scouts have confirmed the system is uninhabited, Zorax continued. No advanced civilizations, no protected species, just empty planets and asteroids full of valuable materials waiting to be harvested. Murmurs of interest rippled through the assembly. The Selkari representative, a creature resembling a giant mantis, clicked its mandibles. What designation does this system carry in the ancient records? Before Zorax could answer, a grinding sound echoed through the chamber. The floor trembled as a section of the wall split open. Through the gap floated Velshan, the keeper of records. The crystalline being hadn't attended a council meeting in over 300 years. Velshan's body was a collection of floating crystal shards that moved in perfect harmony. Each shard contained countless years of galactic history. The keeper's voice sounded like wind chimes caught in a gentle breeze. That system has a name, Velshan said. The humans call it Soul. The chamber fell silent. Even the constant hum of life support systems seemed to pause. Zorax's scales darkened, a sign of irritation among his species. Humans? Our scouts found no evidence of habitation. The 3rd planet shows signs of past civilization, but our scans indicate it's been abandoned for centuries. Not abandoned, Velshan corrected. Sleeping. The keeper floated to the center of the chamber, crystal shards rearranging themselves into a rough humanoid shape. Ancient symbols appeared in the air, around Velshan, writing that predated most current civilizations. 10,000 years ago, the ancients left us a warning, Velshan said. They spoke of a species so dangerous that they chose to isolate themselves from the rest of the galaxy, the humans. Commander Crix, head of the Threxian military, let out a harsh laugh. Fairy tales to frighten children. If these humans were so powerful, where are they now? Why haven't we encountered them in our conquests? Because they chose to sleep, Velshan repeated. After the Great War that nearly destroyed half the galaxy, humanity retreated to their home system. They sealed their borders and vanished from galactic affairs. The Bakari representative, an elderly creature with 6 eyes, spoke up. I remember stories from my grandmother's time. Ships that moved like ghosts. Weapons that turned matter into energy. Soldiers who couldn't die. Superstition, Crick scoffed. The Threxian Empire fears no one. We have the most advanced fleet in the galaxy. Velshan's crystal shards pulsed with a deep red light. The ancients' warning was clear. Never disturb humanity's slumber. They sleep by choice, not weakness. Zorax stepped forward, his diplomatic training taking over. Surely, Keeper, you don't expect us to avoid an entire system based on legends. Our scans show no active defenses, no fleet presence. Just automated. Beacons broadcasting on frequencies no one uses anymore. Those beacons carry the same message they've broadcast for millennia, Velshan said. In every known language they say, human space. Do not enter. Do not wake us. The council chamber erupted in debate. The younger species, those who had risen to power in the last few thousand years, sided with the Threxians. They had never seen humanity's power firsthand. The older races, the ones who still remembered, urged caution. Ambassador Threk of the Vortanian Collective, beings of pure energy, flickered nervously. The stories say humans developed technology that violated the laws of physics, ships that existed in multiple dimensions simultaneously, weapons that erased you from existence itself. Stories, Crix repeated, his voice dripping with contempt. The Threxian Empire has conquered species with legends too. They all fell before our might. Velshan floated higher, addressing the entire assembly. The ancients didn't just warn us, they showed us records of what humans could do, entire fleets vanishing in seconds, planets relocated across the galaxy, time itself bent to their will. Then why did they retreat, Zorax challenged. If they were so powerful, why hide? Because they saw what they were becoming, Velshan answered. The humans looked at their power and chose wisdom over dominion. They isolated themselves to protect the galaxy from their own potential. The debate continued for hours. In the end, the council voted. The younger species, hungry for resources and expansion, outnumbered the cautious elders. By a margin of 60 to 40, they approved the Threxian mining operation in Sector 7G. As the session ended, Velshan approached the Threxian delegation. The keeper's voice dropped to a whisper that somehow carried more weight than a shout. "You have doomed us all," Velshan said. "The humans chose to sleep because they knew what they were capable of. When they wake, and they will wake, the galaxy will remember why we once called them the Devourers of Stars." Crix brushed past the ancient being. "Let them wake. The Threxian Empire will teach these humans that the galaxy has new masters now." Velshan watched the Threxians leave, crystal shards dimming with sorrow. The keeper returned to the archives to update the records one last time. In the ancient script, Velshan carved a new entry. On this day, the Galactic Council chose to ignore the warnings of the past. May future generations forgive us for what comes next. Outside the council chamber, the dying star pulsed with fading light, as if it too understood that something terrible had been set in motion. 3 Threxian dreadnoughts emerged from hyperspace at the edge of the Sol system. Each ship stretched 5 kilometers long, bristling with weapons that had crushed a dozen civilizations. Their dark hulls absorbed light, making them look like tears in the fabric of space itself. Commander Crix stood on the bridge of the lead ship, the Conqueror's Pride. His 4 hands moved across the command console as tactical displays filled the air around him. The system looked exactly as their scouts had reported, quiet, abandoned, ripe for the taking. "Sir, we're detecting automated signals," reported Lieutenant Vectar. "Old frequencies, probably navigation beacons from whatever species used to live here." Crix waved a dismissive hand. "Ignore them. Plot a course for the asteroid belt. I want mining operations to begin within the hour." Meanwhile, in a hidden facility on Earth's moon, alarms began to sound for the first time in centuries. Captain Dan Mitchell nearly spilled his coffee as red lights flashed across his control panel. He'd been stationed at Sentinel-1 for 3 years, and this was the first time he'd seen anything but green status indicators. "Computer, what's happening?" Dan asked, setting down his mug. "Foreign vessels detected entering Sol space," the AI responded in a calm female voice. 3 ships of unknown configuration. They are not responding to standard friend or foe protocols." Dan's training kicked in immediately. He opened a secure channel to Earth Command. "Admiral Foster, this is Sentinel-1. We have unauthorized entry into the system. 3 large vessels moving toward the inner planets." On Earth, Admiral Lisa Foster was in the middle of a routine staff meeting when the call came through. She stood up so fast her chair toppled backward. "How many did you say?" Lisa asked, her voice sharp. 3 ships, Admiral. Big ones. They're
ignoring our automated warnings. Lisa turned to her staff. "Wake everyone up, I mean everyone. If someone's retired, unretire them. If they're sleeping, wake them. This is not a drill."
The Threxian fleet continued its approach, scanners sweeping the system. They cataloged 9 planets, dozens of moons, and a rich asteroid belt perfect for mining. What they didn't notice were the tiny fluctuations in space around them, signs of cloaked human technology older than most galactic civilizations. "Sir," Vectar reported, confusion in his voice. "I'm reading some unusual energy signatures. They seem to be everywhere." in the asteroids, around the planets, even in empty space. Crix studied the readings. Probably remnants of old technology. These humans left a lot of junk behind when they went into hiding. Proceed as planned. Dan watched his screens as more systems came online. Stations that had been dormant for generations flickered to life. Defense platforms hidden in asteroids powered up their reactors. The entire Sol system was waking up. Admiral, Dan reported. The visitors are approaching the asteroid belt. They're not turning back. Lisa stood in Earth Command, surrounded by her senior staff. General Mike Johnson, head of planetary defense, looked grim. Should we try communication first? We are, Lisa replied. The automated systems are broadcasting warnings in over 10,000 languages. They're choosing to ignore them. On Mars, Dr. Amy Roberts felt the vibration through the floor of her research lab. She looked up from her work to see ancient Martian defense systems activating outside her window. Massive cannons, buried under red sand for millennia, broke through the surface. John, she called to her assistant. Are you seeing this? John Baker rushed to the window. The old weapons, they're moving on their own. Amy nodded slowly. The sleeper protocols. Someone just triggered our deepest defense systems. The Threxian fleet reached the asteroid belt. Crix ordered his ships to spread out, each one targeting resource-rich asteroids. Mining lasers charged up, ready to begin extraction. Sir. Vectar's voice carried a hint of worry. Those energy signatures are getting stronger, and there are more of them. It's like the entire system is waking up. Before Crix could respond, space itself seemed to shimmer. A human vessel materialized directly in front of the Conqueror's Pride. It was smaller than the Threxian ship, sleek and angular, with a hull that seemed to shift between solid matter and pure energy. Dan's voice came through the communication system, broadcast, on all frequencies. Threxian vessels, this is Captain Mitchell of Human Defense Command. You are in violation of Sol space. Turn back immediately. Crix stared at the human ship. It had appeared from nowhere, defying everything he knew about physics and space travel. But surprise quickly turned to anger. This is Commander Crix of the Threxian Empire, he responded. This system has been claimed by the Galactic Council for resource extraction. You have no authority here. The Council has no jurisdiction in human space, Dan replied calmly. This is your final warning. Leave now, and there will be no consequences. Crix's scales darkened with rage. How dare this primitive species threaten the might of the Threxian Empire? We recognize no human claims. Begin mining operations. The first Threxian mining laser fired, striking an asteroid. The beam carved into the rock, beginning the extraction process. That's when everything changed. Across the Sol system, thousands of hidden installations revealed themselves. Space stations materialized from pocket dimensions. Defense platforms shed their camouflage. Ships that had been dormant for ages powered up their engines. Lisa watched the tactical display as humanity's true defensive capability became visible for the first time in 10,000 years. My God, she whispered. I knew we had hidden assets, but this... General Johnson nodded grimly. Our ancestors weren't just hiding. They were preparing. On the Threxian bridge, alarms screamed. Vectar's voice shook as he reported, Sir, we're detecting... It's impossible. There are over 5,000 human vessels in the system. They were here all along, we just couldn't see them. Crix felt something he hadn't experienced in decades. Fear. The humans hadn't been extinct or hiding in weakness. They'd been waiting, surrounded by technology so advanced it had remained invisible to Threxian sensors. Dan's voice came through again, still calm, but now carrying an edge of steel. Commander Crix, you have disturbed humanity's peace. You were warned. The consequences are now yours to bear. The human ships began to move, surrounding the three Threxian dreadnoughts like predators circling prey. And in that moment, Crix understood why the ancient records had called humans the devourers of stars. The galaxy was about to remember why humanity had chosen to sleep. As the Threxian mining laser struck the asteroid, something extraordinary happened across human space. On Earth, Billions of people suddenly stopped what they were doing. In offices, homes, and streets, humans felt a collective shift in their consciousness. Dr. Amy Roberts gripped the edge of her desk as waves of memory flooded her mind. Images she'd never seen before flashed behind her eyes. Massive space battles, worlds being reshaped, stars being harvested for energy. These weren't just stories or historical records. They were genetic memories, locked away in human DNA for 10,000 years. "John," she gasped, "do you feel that?" Her assistant nodded, his face pale. "It's like I'm remembering things I never learned. Battle tactics, weapon systems, ship designs." On Earth, construction worker Bill Harris was eating lunch when the awakening hit him. His sandwich fell from his hands as knowledge flooded his mind. Suddenly, he understood quantum mechanics, stellar engineering, and dimensional physics. Around his co-workers experienced the same transformation. "What's happening to us?" his friend Joe asked, holding his head. Bill looked at his hands, seeing them differently now. "We're remembering who we really are." Admiral Lisa Foster stood at the center of Earth Command as reports flooded in from across the planet. Every human, from children to the elderly, was experiencing the awakening. Dormant genes were activating. Suppressed memories were surfacing. "Admiral," reported Dr. Kim Park from the medical division, "brain scans show massive neural activity in every human subject. It's like our entire species is evolving, or rather, returning to what we once were." General Mike Johnson flexed his fingers, feeling strength he'd never known before. "I remember now why our ancestors chose to sleep. We were becoming too powerful, too dangerous." In space, Captain Dan Mitchell felt the change wash over him. His perception expanded beyond his physical senses. He could feel the Sol system like it was part of his body. Every ship, every defense platform, every hidden weapon, he knew them all. "Computer," Dan said, his voice carrying new authority. "Activate full integration protocol." "Protocol activated. Welcome back, Captain. All systems are at your command." The human ship's interior transformed. Walls became transparent, giving Dan a 360-degree view of space. Neural interfaces emerged from the floor, connecting directly to his nervous system. He was no longer just commanding the ship. He was becoming one with it. On Mars, the transformation was even more dramatic. The red planet's surface began to crack and shift. Massive structures rose from beneath the sand, cities that had been buried for millennia. The terraforming engines, dormant for generations, roared to life. Amy watched through her lab window as Mars transformed before her eyes. The thin atmosphere thickened. Ancient forests, preserved in stasis fields, began to grow again. In hours, Mars was changing from a dead world to a living one. "The planetary consciousness is awakening," Amy whispered. "Mars remembers what it was before we chose to sleep." Throughout the solar system, similar transformations occurred. Jupiter's moons revealed hidden bases. Saturn's rings reorganized into defensive formations. Even Pluto, the tiny world at the edge of the system, unveiled massive energy projectors aimed at deep space. Commander Crix watched in horror as the human forces surrounded his fleet, but it wasn't just their numbers that terrified him. It was how they moved. The human ships didn't obey the laws of physics as he understood them. They phased in and out of reality, existed in multiple places simultaneously, and moved through space as if distance meant nothing. "Sir," Vector reported, his voice trembling. "Their technology. It's not possible. They're manipulating space-time itself. Their ships are jumping between dimensions." Crix tried to maintain his composure. "All units prepare for combat. Show these primitives the might of the Threxian Empire." But something else was happening to the humans. On Earth, people walked out of their homes and looked up at the sky. Without speaking, they began to link minds. First dozens, then hundreds, then millions. The collective human consciousness was awakening. Lisa felt the connection form. Suddenly, she wasn't just one admiral. She was part of something greater. The thoughts and knowledge of billions of humans flowed through her mind. Scientists, soldiers, engineers, artists, all united in a single purpose. "We are one," she said, her voice echoing with the power of humanity's collective will. "And we remember everything." The transformation reached its peak when the children began to change. 8-year-old Emma Wilson was playing in her backyard when she suddenly understood the mathematical foundations of the universe. She raised her hand and reality bent around her fingers. "Mommy," she called out, "I can see the strings that hold existence together." Her mother rushed outside, then stopped in awe. Emma was floating 3 feet off the ground, surrounded by geometric patterns of pure energy. Veterans like Commander Jack Davis found their bodies changing. Old scars healed instantly, muscles strengthened beyond human limits. The genetic locks that had kept humanity's true potential dormant for millennia finally broke. "I remember the old wars," Jack said to his wife. "Why we scared the galaxy so much. We weren't just soldiers, we were forces of nature." In space, Dan's ship began to transform. The metal hull became liquid, reshaping itself into new configurations. Weapon systems that violated the laws of causality came online. The ship was no longer just a vessel. It was a living extension of human will. "All human forces," Dan broadcast, his mind touching every awakened human in the system. "The sleep is over. We are what we were meant to be." The Threxian sensors couldn't make sense of what they detected. Energy readings were off the scale. Space itself seemed to bend around human ships. Some vessels appeared to exist in multiple timelines simultaneously. "This is impossible," Crix muttered. "No species can have this kind of power." But humanity did. And as the awakening completed, every human in the Sol system shared the same thought. We chose to sleep because we knew what we could become. Now, the galaxy will remember why. The stars themselves seemed to dim as humanity's true power revealed itself. The devourers of stars had awakened, and the universe would never be the same. Ambassador Helen Torres materialized on the bridge of the Threxian flagship. She didn't use a shuttle or transporter. She simply wished to be there, and reality reshaped itself to accommodate her desire. The Threxian crew stepped back in shock as the human woman appeared from thin air. "Commander Crix," Helen said, her voice calm but carrying the weight of billions of minds, "I am here to offer you one final chance. Leave now, and this ends peacefully." Crix stared at the human ambassador. She looked ordinary, average height, brown hair, simple clothes. But his sensors showed impossible readings. She wasn't just one being. Somehow she was connected to every human in the system. "You dare board my ship?" Crix snarled, his warrior pride overcoming his fear. "The Threxian Empire does not yield to threats from primitive species." Helen's expression remained serene. "We are not threatening you, Commander. We are offering mercy. Your actions have awakened something that chose to sleep. Please, for your own sake, leave." Crix's forearms moved to his weapon controls. "The Threxian Empire conquered half the galaxy. Your tricks don't frighten us. All weapons target the human vessels. Fire." The Threxian dreadnoughts unleashed their arsenal. Beams of concentrated energy, projectiles moving at near-light speed, and exotic weapons that had devastated entire fleets streaked toward the human ships. None of them hit their targets. Captain Steve Williams, commanding the human battlecruiser Retribution, didn't even flinch as the Threxian weapons approached. He thought a simple command and space itself bent around his ship. The enemy fire passed harmlessly through the area where his vessel should have been. "All human vessels," Steve broadcast through the neural network, "weapons free. Show them why our ancestors chose isolation." What followed defied every law of physics the Threxians knew. Human ships didn't just move, they existed in multiple places at once. A single human destroyer appeared to split into a dozen copies, each one fully real and capable of attack. Dan Mitchell's ship phased out of normal space, reappearing inside the shields of a Threxian dreadnought. His weapons fired from within their defenses, causing devastating damage before his ship vanished again. "Impossible," Vectar screamed as his console exploded. They're teleporting inside our shields. Their weapons are hitting us from the past and future simultaneously. But the true horror came when humanity revealed their reality-altering weapons. A human frigate fired what looked like a simple beam of light at a Threxian ship. Where the beam touched, matter simply ceased to exist. Not destroyed or vaporized, it was erased from reality as if it had never been. Lisa Foster watched from Earth Command as the battle unfolded. Through the collective consciousness, she felt no joy in the violence. "We tried to warn them," she said sadly. "We chose to sleep so we wouldn't have to do this anymore." In space, the human child Emma Wilson floated inside a protective sphere, her mind linked to the battle network. She raised her small hand and one of the Threxian dreadnoughts began to fold in on itself like origami. The massive warship compressed into a ball the size of a marble, its crew transported safely to escape pods before the compression completed. "Don't hurt them too much," Emma told the collective. They just didn't understand. Commander Jack Davis led a squadron of fighters that shouldn't have been able to exist. His ships moved through solid matter, traveled faster than light without entering hyperspace, and fired weapons that turned energy shields into flowers that bloomed in the vacuum of space. "Remember," Jack broadcast to his pilots, "we're not trying to destroy them. We're teaching them why the galaxy used to fear us." The battle, if it could even be called that, lasted 17 minutes. In that time, the proud Threxian fleet was reduced to helpless wreckage. Their weapons couldn't track targets that existed in multiple dimensions. Their shields couldn't stop attacks that originated from inside their own ships. Their sensors couldn't comprehend enemies that manipulated time itself. Helen Torres remained on the Threxian bridge throughout the engagement. She hadn't moved, hadn't gestured, hadn't given a single order, but Crix could feel the power radiating from her, the combined will of billions of awakened humans. "Please," Helen said again, "surrender. We don't want to hurt you anymore." Crix fell to his knees, his pride finally broken. His mighty dreadnought was crippled, systems failing, weapons destroyed. 2 of his escort ships were gone, not destroyed, but transformed into geometric sculptures of impossible beauty that now orbited peacefully nearby. "What are you?" Crix whispered. Helen knelt beside the defeated commander. "We are what we always were. Your species is young, Commander. You never knew the galaxy before we chose to sleep. We fought wars that broke reality itself. We built weapons that could unmake stars. We became gods of destruction." She helped Crix to his feet. "And then we looked at ourselves and were horrified. So we chose to sleep, to forget, to become less than we were. We isolated ourselves to protect the galaxy from our power." Steve Williams' voice came through the communication system. "Threxian, vessels, your weapons are neutralized, your engines are disabled. We will tow you to the edge of our system and repair your damage. Tell the Galactic Council what you've seen here." As the human ships began rescue operations, Amy Roberts stood in her lab on Mars, tears streaming down her face. "We tried so hard to change," she said to her assistant. 10,000 years of sleep, and we wake up to be the same monsters we always were." John placed a comforting hand on her shoulder. "No, we're not. The old humans would have destroyed them completely. We showed mercy." In space, the human fleet began the careful work of repairing the Threxian ships. They restored life support, healed the wounded, and even improved some of the alien technology. It was a message to the galaxy. Humanity could destroy, but they chose to heal. "Take this message to the Council," Helen told Crix as she prepared to leave his ship. "Humanity is awake. We will not expand beyond our system, but we will not tolerate intrusion. The old borders are restored. Cross them at your peril." As Helen vanished from the bridge, Crix touched the spot where she had stood. The deck was permanently altered at the molecular level, reformed into a pattern of crystalline beauty. Even in their mercy, humans couldn't help but reshape reality around them. The universe had been reminded why humanity chose to sleep, and why they should never be awakened. The battered Threxian vessel limped into the Galactic Council chamber. Commander Crix, his scales dulled with exhaustion and defeat, stood before the assembled representatives. His once proud posture was broken, his forearms hanging limp at his sides. "Report, Commander," Zorax demanded. "Where is the rest of your fleet?" Crix's voice was barely a whisper. "This is the fleet. What's left of it?" Gasps echoed through the chamber. The Threxian military was legendary. 3 of their dreadnoughts had conquered entire star systems. Now only one crippled ship remained. The humans, Crix continued, his eyes hollow. They aren't what we thought. They don't just have advanced technology. They are something else entirely. They bend reality itself to their will. Velshan floated forward, crystal shards pulsing, with sad understanding. "Tell them what you saw, Commander. The Council needs to know." Crix shuddered. "Their children float in space without suits. Their ships exist in multiple places at once. They erase matter from existence with a thought. One human child compressed our dreadnought into a marble-sized ball. They didn't destroy us, they could have. They chose to let us live as a warning." The chamber fell silent. Then a shimmering portal opened in the center of the room. Ambassador John Parker stepped through, appearing as suddenly as Helen had, on Crix's ship. He was a tall, quiet man with kind eyes that held the weight of eternity. "Members of the Galactic Council," John said, his voice carrying to every corner of the chamber, "I bring a message from humanity." The representatives drew back, fear rippling through the assembly. But John raised his hand peacefully. "We did not want this," he said. "For 10,000 years we slept. We suppressed our nature, locked away. Our power chose to forget what we could do. We did this to protect you, to protect ourselves from what we might become." Zorax, despite his fear, stood tall. "What are your intentions? Will you conquer the galaxy?" John shook his head. "We want only to be left alone. We will remain within our borders. Sol system is closed to all outside vessels. We make no claims. On other worlds, seek no resources beyond our space. But cross our boundaries again and you will face the consequences." Velshan drifted closer. "Why did you choose to sleep? With such power you could have ruled everything." "Because we saw what that power did to us," John replied. "We fought wars that shattered planets, we harvested stars for fuel, we changed the laws of physics to suit our needs. And in doing so, we lost ourselves. So we chose wisdom over power. We chose to sleep rather than become the monsters we were becoming." The Council voted unanimously to establish a 50 light-year exclusion zone around human space. Star charts were updated with warnings in every known language. Trade routes were redirected. Military patrols were instructed to stay far from Sol system. On Earth, Lisa Foster addressed humanity through the collective consciousness. "Our sleep is over," she said from the Global Command Center. "We cannot return to what we were before, but we can choose what we become now." Across human space, people began to adapt to their awakened state. They learned to control their newfound abilities, to balance their individual selves with the collective consciousness. Children like Emma were taught that with great power came the responsibility to show restraint. Dan Mitchell remained at his post on Sentinel-1, now one with his ship and the defense network. "We're the Guardians now," he told his crew. "We watch the borders so humanity can find its new path." In the depths of the galactic archives, Velshan added a new entry to the ancient records. "The humans have awakened. They chose mercy over destruction, isolation over conquest. But let this serve as the final warning to all who might follow the Threxians' path. Humanity sleeps no more. The devourers of stars watch the void. Disturb them at your own peril." The galaxy adjusted to its new reality. Trade flourished in other sectors. New alliances formed. But always, at the edge of star maps, the Sol system stood apart, a reminder that some powers are best left undisturbed. And in the quiet of space, humanity began the long journey of discovering who they could become when they were neither sleeping gods nor awakened monsters, but something new, something better. The universe had learned its lesson. Humanity was awake, and the stars themselves would remember why they once chose to sleep.